turn on the music real quick?
What's that?
Can you turn on the music real quick?
That's supposed to be on. Cut it off.
Okay.
There we go. So distance alert. It is turning on the brakes right now all by itself. It slowed us down to 51. It's slowing me down as she slows down. It's slowing me down. I've got my cruise set at 60 and it slowed me all the way down to 55. So it's maintaining that following distance. You see that? Car coming up. So it's in my blind spot and that light just came on.
I'm watching it too.
Hey guys, it's Chelsea and Pink. Welcome to our second roundtable discussion. We have some new people with us here today, and this time we're going to be actually talking about crash mitigation systems. Some of you guys may have actually experienced that, driven a truck with these types of systems. Some of you may not, but they're becoming more and more common, so we felt like this was an important topic for us to discuss today. So I'm going to turn it over to Sadie, and she's going to go around and introduce everybody.
Hey, I'm Sadie. I'm the Director of Recruiting and Marketing here at RTI. And then with us we have Mike. He's going to be speaking on behalf or as a representative of Crash Mitigation Systems, give us a little bit of information about the systems, how their intended purpose, how they're supposed to work, things like that. And we have Eugene. He's our Director of Maintenance. I believe that's your title, is that right?
It is.
Okay. And then we have some RTI drivers who have crash mitigation systems on their trucks. So how this is going to work is Chelsea and I will take turns asking the questions, and then we'll be taking your questions through Facebook as well. So if you have questions about the systems, you have opinions on crash mitigation systems, go ahead and drop a comment, and we'll do our best to answer those as we go. And how this is going to work, as I said, Chelsea and I will take turns asking the questions, and then we'll start at this end with the introductions, and then we'll work around, and then Chelsea will ask the first question, and then Ernie will answer, and then it'll go back the opposite direction. And the only thing I ask is that we don't interrupt one another. If you want to follow up on something that someone said, you need to wait until it goes back to your turn, okay? All right, so Mike, if you want to start with your introduction.
I'm Mike Haig. I represent WAPCO, which is the on-guard collision mitigation system. I have drove a truck for 15 years. I've been involved with the mitigation system in a short time, but I do see the values of it and look forward to having this discussion.
Eugene Mosier, Director of Maintenance for RTI. I've been in maintenance for about 27 years. Before that, I drove truck in the Air Force, drove all around Saudi Arabia, hauling bombs and everything else. But I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
My name is Tim Stamper. I'm a driver here at RTI. I've only been here for about 4 months. Had my CDL for 16 years. So I'll do my best to put my input in.
My name is Russ Katzenberger. Been driving for RTI over 2 years. I've driven several trucks with the system in it, and have quite a bit of experience with it. I also drive teams, so I can bring up some points that also causes problems with.
I'm Chelsea. I was a recruiter with Riverside Transport for about 3 years, and now I've actually done their Train Your Team program, so I actually got my CDL. So I've been driving for about a month now. So.
My name's Ernie. I've driven with RTI for 2 years now. I've driven semi for roughly 10 years. My truck has a mitigation system on it, and can't wait for this discussion today. So,
Okay, so we're gonna start with the first question, and like say you said, we're gonna start at this side of the room and work our way over there. So Ernie, what is your experience with Crash Mitigation Systems?
I drive a 2018 Peterbilt 579. It has a mitigation on it. It was actually the first truck I think I have driven with it on it. So I would say for the last year and a half, I've driven with the mitigation system, and that would be, like I said, I think it's the first truck I've had since I started that had it on it. So.
Okay.
And what systems do you have on your truck?
It's the. Well, I don't know what the difference in this is. I just know them by the Peterbilts have a certain system, and then the Volvos have the different system. Mine doesn't do lane assist. It just does. It's pretty much front facing. It doesn't do the sides or anything like that. So.
And it's only when the cruise is on?
Well, I mean, it enacts whenever you're just regular driving also, but mostly it enacts fully when the cruise is on.
I have a 2019 Volvo. The system, I mean, has its pluses and its negatives. I've driven 3 different trucks with the system on it. 10 years ago was the first truck I drove with the system on it. So it's really just being a team and stuff. The noises that it makes it hard to sleep and stuff more than anything.
I have a 2018 Peterbilt as well, probably the exact same truck that you do. This is the first truck that I've had with the mitigation system on it, just forward facing, no side lane mitigation, and it gets pretty crazy sometimes.
Sorry, Tim.
So I mean, obviously the experience that I have with it is the repair and maintenance of it. I have drove a truck with the radar system on the front, with the blind spot monitoring. I have no experience with the lane departure other than cars, but my opinion of it, the limited amount of time I have had experience with it's been pretty good, but I'm not with it as much as you guys are during the day.
Just to echo what Eugene said there, my exposure to the collision mitigations has been mostly on demonstrations and testing sites. I can tell you I've seen what it can do. I can see why companies look at this as a mitigation system, and I've seen all the positives. Of course, there again, I was in on the testing end of it. I was on that end of it. I haven't had the everyday experience of riding through with the beeps and stuff, but I can tell you what the system can do, and it's pretty awesome. And that's the on-guard system, and the 2 systems is on-guard and Fusion is the 2 different systems.
All right, so we'll start back with you again, Mike. There seems to be several concerns about how systems can misfire due to shadows, large bugs, precipitation, and so forth. How could you speak to that, and then for the drivers, what is your experience with
for the
misfires?
drivers and it's pretty common knowledge. They do misfire. We have unattended events. All mitigation systems have unattended events. It's should be, when they do have an unattended event, it should be a HAPIC warning, which is less than half of a second, is how long the brake is on. It's only on 20%. So it's a wake-up call as much as anything, right, when this thing's going on. That's the way the system is intended to work. Of course, obviously, the closer you go, the more the system's going to react, the more bells, the more braking is going to have. Collision mitigation braking goes up over 50% of the power.
So I sit somewhere in the middle as far as the concerns. I know what it's supposed to do and what it's intended to do and what he's probably going to talk mostly about. But then I understand that there's 3 sides to every story, right? There's the manufacturer side of what it can do, and then there's the driver side of what they're saying is happening. oftentimes I feel like, and I'm not saying 100% of the time, but oftentimes I feel like that is taken to an extreme over here. So there's a third story there, and I don't know what that third story is because my experience with it, working on them in maintenance is such where I don't have that firsthand experience. So do I believe that there are issues on it for the drivers? Yes, I do, but I also know what the intended purpose and what they're supposed to do, and I think that there's a happy medium there somewhere. I just don't know where that is right now.
Well, the majority of my experiences with it, at least negative experiences, are nighttime driving, and it's no cars around me, and the majority of it's going under overpasses. Picks up the shadows, and it engages the brakes, turns your dash red, and all that stuff. I've had it happen a couple of times during the day. But like I said, it's 2 or 3 times a day that'll there'll be nobody around me, and it just slams the brakes. The beeping gets kind of annoying. We're still trying to figure out a way how to muffle that, but you learn to ignore it after a little while. But yeah, it's just it's 2 or 3 times a day, and that's like I said, the majority of my experience has been nighttime driving with it. So.
My experience, overpasses, just like he's talking about, that's happened several times. I mean, you say 20%, but like you were saying, when you're closer to somebody, well, when you're running through rush hour traffic, this system in this Volvo has thrown me out of the bunk twice from people jumping off trying to take exits right in front of us, and it's slamming on the brakes. And I'm telling you from my experience, it wasn't 20% when it slammed on the brakes. And I mean, I understand the difference in the distance, but when you're trying to sleep with the constant beeping, the Volvo system is a little bit different than Peterbilt because the system actually closes out the stereo system. So it beeps over the speakers. So you don't even have the distraction noise of the stereo going over the beeping. And I'm here to tell you right now, that'll drive somebody insane. I mean, it's nonstop. And when I'm back there trying to sleep, he's driving through rush hour traffic, that's a real issue. I mean, I see the positives of it, but at the same time, I'm a truck driver, and I really don't need something driving a truck for me.
Nope.
They've pretty much covered everything as far as the Peterbilt. The one thing that, like he has said that it's in rush hour or when you hit the shadows and it enacts. One problem I have with it is I run a lot out west, and it's a higher speed, so I will go 70 miles an hour. And when it's like, if it's foggy out or there's like a light mist or a little bit of rain, a lot of times I might have the cruise set, but I'll already have my foot on the pedal so that I can go 68, 70 miles an hour, because when we don't have it, we can only go 65. So when I'm out west and I'm wide open, and because it's raining, it doesn't work, and you can only go 65. The big problem I find with it is, like, if I pull out to pass somebody and their wash coming off of their truck gets into the sensor, it'll shut it down. So you could be going 70 to pass somebody who's going 65, and you're right up next to them, and you get right up next to them, and then all of a sudden it shuts down, you're dead in the water. And I've found that to be very, very dangerous. Of course, the shadows is probably the biggest danger when it locks up on you, but at the same time, like, there's the other spectrum where it makes you slower to where you can't actually pass the person that you're going up a hill. If you're loaded at 10,000 and they're loaded at 40, of course you're going to be able to pass them quicker. But if you get up right next to them and all of a sudden it shuts off, you're dead in the water. And that's a big problem I have with it. So,
Mike, did you want to follow up?
So in these conditions, and most of it, so the WAPCO on-guard system is set up with a radar system. A radar system doesn't really care about weather. It can see through fog, it can see through smoke, it can see through dust, mist, and such as that. So the radar system is not going to be giving you these reactions like a camera system. You have to understand that some systems are set up with a camera base and a radar deal. The camera base is as strong as your eyes. So if there is rain and stuff like that, there's a chance that, you know, it can't see through. So then it maybe, you know, does this reaction thing. So it's very clear that, you know, there's two types. One can only see as far as what your eyes can, and that's a camera system. And the other is a radar system that can see through anything. So the radar system works. And you know, that's the one, as you said, you run out west, and you'll come across those smoke areas where the roads are, the dust storms or stuff. Without radar, you're going into a blind deal like we hear about on I-5 all the time. And you know, that's what the system's here to help for. It's for those unique situations that, as drivers who control their trucks and you know, but there again, we're only blessed with our eyes, right? We don't have radar systems, so that's what the system is set up to do, is to
Is
see
ours a
through
beam?
things.
Ours is a beam, because when we get behind a car and it shuts off, somebody will have to pass us, and it's almost like it has to read the next person in front of you, and it's either distance closing or distance farther before it'll reset.
Yeah.
So ours has got to be the radar, but it does mess up, and if it's like any kind of a moisture, anything gets on that sensor, it messes up.
There's different things, and you talk about the overpasses, and you know, with sometimes with the overpasses and the lights will reflect on a sign,
Yeah.
and the radar picks it up. That's where these things are coming from. It's not perfect, guys. You know, we're here to assure you, but in those cases that it's needed, it's there, and it will do its job.
Sadie, so as far as your Volvo, we do have me and the director of maintenance for TLI did quite a bit of research on the Volvos with the noise coming through the speakers. We do have a fix for that.
Mine's already actually been fixed. It only goes off at 16 feet now.
At 18, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, 16 feet, yep, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and that's that took care of the sound problem already.
Right, and,
I
and,
mean,
and with that noise going through the stereo speaker system, that just absolutely made your guys' life miserable.
yeah, that's
Good,
that's-
I'm glad it's fixed.
I mean, literally, it caused such tension and frustration in the truck just because it was a constant, nonstop. You know, it stresses you out.
Yeah.
I mean, you got enough stuff out here stressing you out as it is. You don't need a constant. I mean, it's almost like sound torture. You know, it's horrible.
Yeah, I understand. Good deal. Thank you, Sadie.
So Eugene, real quick, I know that some of our RTI drivers, TLI drivers are going to be watching this. We actually have a Facebook group for RTI and TLI drivers. I don't know if you guys are in that group, but a lot of the more common threads include the Volvo, oh, I missed my Peterbilt, you know, the noises. So can you kind of reiterate what you were just discussing with Russ here about how we can avoid that frustration with the sound? What is the fix?
Well, on the Volvo, the fix is, so the Veda system has several configurations that you can have the noise. It has 3 beeps. One's a long beep, one's a medium beep, one's a short beep. The short beep obviously indicates there's a collision imminent. A long beep is, you know, there's something a ways off. I think it's 250 feet or something like that.
280.
So once the radar picks it up at 250 feet, it will start beeping a long beep. As you get closer to it, then it will go to the medium beep, and then when collision's imminent, it will start beeping quickly. What we did is all of our trucks were set up for configuration 5, which was exactly what I mentioned to you, and we're changing it to configuration 7, which is no beeps at the long, however the collision mitigation system is still working,
Right.
and then no beeps at the medium beep, but the collision mitigation system is still working, and then the short beep is that's still active, but I think it's at 18 feet. You'll start hearing the short beep saying that there's a collision imminent.
Okay.
But again, the collision mitigation system is still working. It's probably still shutting you down. You know something's happening by the time that 18 feet comes up.
Right.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
and it allows the teams, which most of the Volvos belong to sleep at night without the driver in the bunk
Yes.
getting some sleep, staying up all night because that
Yeah.
beeping won't go away. So.
Right.
Which is
Which
definitely
is the most
appreciated.
important part
It's
because we
definitely
don't want
appreciated.
unsafe drivers out there. as
Right,
well.
right. You
Yeah.
have a system in place
Correct.
to protect people,
Correct.
and then it's
Yeah.
Right.
Keeping people up.
keeping people awake, which
Yeah.
is not safe either. So
So the next question that we have is, there have been drivers forced into a skid in inclement weather from being cut by a slower driver. Is there a way around this?
To me?
Yes.
Well, I don't know what type of a skid we're talking about in inclement weather, because in order to have a collision mitigation system on the trucks today, you must have ABS, anti-skid braking systems, so there should never be a skidding situation or a jackknife situation. Technology did that a long time ago. That's the best. So I don't know about how it goes into a skid. The other thing is when you're in a situation like that, because with collision mitigation, not only do you have ABS, you have to have road stability control on the tractor too. And we've all went through those pains with the road stability, to where if the truck with the yaw sensor says it's leaning too far, it's going to start taking the power away. It's going to start doing a braking mission to keep the truck straight and keep it from rolling over. So there could be three things going on here when this thing goes off, right? The brakes come on, they're ABS. They should not be locking up. There should be no skid. There should be no, they keep us from jackknifing today in our trucks. So it should be nothing like
all the
that.
time.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Trucks jackknife all the time.
Yeah, but not like they did before ABS.
Right, but it is still a possibility.
Yeah,
I mean, it
it's
does in fact
oh,
happen.
absolutely. I mean, you
Yes.
can't. There's some things. This is the technology we're talking about here is not to drive the truck. We have professionals doing that.
Right.
We're just going to give you that 1 second break.
Okay.
So I agree with basically everything he said. So, however, I know again, there's three sides to every story, and the drivers know their trucks better than anybody in maintenance could know it. That's for darn sure, because you guys are in it all the time. But as far as how the systems work to where it should be very difficult to go into a skid. It should be very difficult to get into a jackknife situation. And you should largely be able to maintain control of the vehicle with the systems that are on it. Is there always outliers? Absolutely. Could there be a situation where this collision mitigation system, somebody pulls out in front of you, you have a haptic brake at 20%, and it puts you into a skid? I don't know. In my mind, I can't cover all those scenarios. But I know that when I drove truck, I remember driving a truck in Florida one day, and it was raining, and somebody pulled out in front of me, and I stepped on the brakes, and I looked in my mirror, and my trailer started to go over to the left here, and the only thing I could do or think of at the time, which was the right decision, was to give it some gas, and I pulled right out of it, and I'm done. And now that is just, we're just talking, just touching the brakes. So if something could happen there, then yeah, this system probably could do something like that, but not in every situation. I would probably say in 95 to 99% of the situations it won't do it. But there's always that chance.
Well, this is the first truck I've ever driven with the system on it. I don't have the winter driving experience with it yet, so we'll come up to see this winter, see what the system's going to do. There is some tricks around it to keep it from slamming on the brakes, but you got to catch it just as fast as the radar does, and just simply put your foot on the gas pedal does that. But that requires you to be alert at all times and all that. But I'm curious to see what it's going to do in the wintertime with the snow and the ice and stuff like that. So we'll get there the next month or so.
Already been there. I understand ABS brakes. I understand exactly how ABS brakes operate. Problem being is they can stop. They don't lock up. But them not locking up does not keep you from skidding, driving in some of the stuff we drive. Once that skid is started and you have the inertia behind you, if it steps on those brakes and you start going, it's not going to stop you just because there's anti-lock brakes. That does not change anything. You will still go into that skid. If you're hitting 20%, That right there, driving on, I have pictures of Colorado just earlier last week, driving through snow already. If that hit 20%, going through that snow, that 20%, especially going around a curve or anything else, is enough to send you off that road, regardless of the brakes being analog or not. It's not going to stop you. Once it starts, it's done. Unless you know how to pull out of it, you get lucky enough to pull out of it. I mean, analog brakes are a great thing. The system, I think, needs work. I mean, I have friends that have gone off into ditches because of this system. I have a friend that everything got hung on him. He never even drove an automatic before, never even drove anything with that on it. Driving for Schneider. Schneider tore him up through his DAC and everything else. You know, he got a ticket for it, everything. It wasn't him. He was driving down 80 through Iowa and hit the brakes. You know, no control of his. I was going through Colorado, going through Loveland Pass when I first truck I had with it on it. The snow mounted up around the curve from them plowing the roads. It picked that up, stepped on the brakes, and it probably was only about 20%, luckily, because if it was more than that, I'd probably been down the side of the mountain.
Sure.
But I did start to lose control. And that's not something that's fun in Loveland Pass. I had to buy a new seat. I mean, that's some scary stuff to live with, you know? I mean, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement on it, personally.
Oakland Pass is going over top of Eisenhower, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, by Eisenhower, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it says you come down.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
No.
It's not fun to drive.
I mean, this is stuff that I drive in all the time, you know? I mean, conditions are conditions. A lot of drivers will shut down, especially these days. I will push to try to get out of the storm, because if you get stuck in a storm, you're stuck. So, I mean, it's all things to think about with it.
I had it all last year with my Peterbilt, and I really didn't see a whole lot of problems with being in ice. When it did enact and I was in ice, I think the more problem is the trailer. You know, it's not analog brakes, and that seems to be the most problem, but there's nothing that the mitigation system would do. It had anything to fix that. I was actually, I mean, as far as like issues in the winter, I was actually pretty happy. I was scared to death that it was going to be more issues. I was actually pretty happy with it, but I think a lot of it all, there's a lot of different factors as far as the skidding. A lot of times people will say it was the system, but you don't know how much tire tread they had. You don't know how much they did this or that, or what was, you know, if everything was set up for winter driving. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I think that, you know, with these trucks nowadays, like I said, I don't think that I can remember having any issues last year, and I drove out back and forth to Surrey, British Columbia every time I got a chance. So, I guess in this retrospect, as far as winter driving, I don't have anything really bad to say about it. I mean, it's annoying, but that's in summer too, so I can't really say anything. So.
All right. So the next question is, do the benefits of these systems outweigh the potential issues that they create?
To me? Yes. Absolutely. You know, through the scenarios and we've talked about, and you made a very valid point, it's new technology,
Yeah.
and it's growing. We have decreased the unattended events by over 80%. That's a big change. So the technology is catching up. The point is, there still is unattended events. And, you know, until it's a perfect product, you know, I find the same thing in the cars, whether it's in cars, trucks, or whatever. It's, you know, it's just not perfect. But the technology and your feedback is so valuable in this stuff that, you know, so we can go forward in the right direction. The drivers have all of the information, you know, like what Eugene said, you know, they see them when they come in and they see the different, you guys are in these things every day. You're driving, you're professional drivers, you're driving the truck. You know what the truck's supposed to do. When it does something different than that, yeah, that's an eye getter. There's no question about that. hopefully it's nothing, you know, in some of these extreme cases, you know, yeah, I'd like to look at the downloads on them and see what happened on the braking systems and stuff like that, because, you know, we hope that doesn't happen. That's not, but it's not a perfect science yet. So there is incidents like that. But at the end of the day, one thing I will assure everyone here, this system will save your life. It's been done so many times. The transportation companies in our industry are reporting phenomenal numbers of less rear end collisions of over 60, 70, depends on who you talk to, right? Percent. And then when you take the factor, the cash factor to put on top of it, for the Riverside part of it, their lawsuits and damages have went down 90%. So when they are having collisions, they're less. They're not the impact of a 60-mile-an-hour truck, 80,000 pounds. So we're getting them down to 20 mile an hour. We're getting them down to 15 mile an hour, you know. So if it can't be avoided, it's a less crash. So it is a good system. It's a great system.
So my answer is also yes. It's definitely worth it, and I'll tell you why I think that. Just for the exact same reason that we have check engine lights and oil pressure lights and coolant temperature lights. You guys are professional drivers. However, I know the reality of sitting in the driver's seat can be a little mundane. It can be a little boring, and maybe you're focused on the horizon for some reason. You cannot have all your attention at every place that you need to have it.
Mm-hmm.
These systems will help you be a better driver, and they will help you to stay alive if something happens. Even if it's just that half a second notice before you notice it, it's worth it. Yes, there are problems with it. There's been problems with every new technology since I have been in trucking. Every single new technology, ABS, automated transmissions, everything has had problems, and they perfect them or they make them go away. I believe that these systems are going to be around for a while, and so yes, I absolutely think it's worth it. We have some things to work through, but you know, just like the rest of the industry, I think we're going to be able to find a way to do it.
I think if we could get it tweaked to, you know, a little less unattended events, you know, maybe knock it down from 2 or 3 times a day to maybe once a day. Get rid of the beeping, at least, you know, close the distance a little bit more on the beeping. We do pay attention. You know, most of us see the cars in front of us and stuff. We don't need, like, my truck starts beeping at what, like 4 or 5 seconds out, something like that.
3.5.
Is it 3.5? And you know, it gets kind of annoying. But you know, even if we could just not completely silence it, but turn it down a little bit, because it'll drive you insane. And I can see its benefits as well. You know, especially for less experienced drivers, kind of gets them to pay attention a little bit more. But yeah, if it could be tweaked, less unattended events, beeping, just punch a hole in the speaker or something in the dash. I don't care what happens to that thing, but you know, I could deal with everything else. You know, there's ways around it. You know, if somebody cuts
I'm
you
glad
off.
it doesn't come through our stereo and our Peterbilt.
Yeah,
Mine. When they
I
told
feel
me
bad
that,
for
I'm like,
Volvo
whoa.
guys. Yeah, but yeah, it could be a useful tool. Just, you know, like I said, it needs work. New technology needs work, but hey, we'll find out.
I mean, obviously numbers don't lie. Rear end collisions, way down. I mean, that's one of the number one things in a semi truck. You know, it does have benefits. My experience with technology, I mean, I grew up, I didn't have computers in school, I didn't do all this. I have smartphones, everything else. One thing I know about technology is there is no way to perfect it, period. I mean, your best theory on fixing anything electronic is to turn it off and start it again. You know, I mean, and that goes as well with the truck. You know, it goes as well with the trucks. A lot of times I've had things go on, I shut the truck off, start it back up, it's fine.
Yep.
You know, it's technology. It's not going to change. Yeah, it's just part of our life. We just have to learn how to deal with it the best way we can. I mean, the system itself has flaws. It's always going to have flaws, but it is saving lives. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a truck driver. I would rather not have it on my truck, personally. Especially with a lot of truck drivers we have out there these days, I would say put it on every truck you can. Other than that, I mean, it does anything that's going to save people's lives is going to have benefits. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. Well, we're not perfect. So, yeah.
Does it work? Yes. Is it probably better for the different, with the crashes going down? Yes, I would say it is. But like everyone said, it needs to be tweaked even more than what it has. And I know they've probably come a long way from where they were. But I mean, as the inner old school truck driver in me, no, I don't want it on there, but I've kind of gotten used to the one that I have now, which is bad to say because now like sometimes it'll beep and I don't even realize it. And of course, if it slams on the brakes, I'm going to notice, but I've toned it out so much that I don't realize that it's doing it. I think it's driver preference. I think if for some drivers, they definitely need it. I think honestly, if you've driven for less than 3 to 5 years, you probably do need it. But after a while, I mean, just like with every other job, the more and more we do it, it becomes second nature. And, yes, it changes our complexion of driving, but at the same time, I think once you do it for 10 years, like I said, I mean, some days I do things that back when I first started driving, I would hate. Now I do it, and it's like, just another day. So I think it should be driver preference. But I can definitely see where it helps, and where it would bring the crashes down. It would bring safety. Their figures would probably improve for as far as the safety portion of a company. But again, I mean, there's always going to be drivers that don't want it, 100%. There's also drivers that are afraid to change. I think it's driver preference.
On that as well, I think a lot of what he says makes a lot of sense because now we have CDLs with automatic only. People don't even know how to drive a manual.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think a system like this for new drivers coming into this as new drivers, never having any other experience in this, I think it's a lot easier for them to deal with. Me being out here driving a truck, it's a little different for me, and it is change. Sometimes it is a lot of change. It's not easy for a lot of people to deal with, and personally, I mean, I'm driving the thing. I want to be in control of it. But
people are afraid of adaptation.
It's, if I may, it's no different than what it was when I was driving. Is the old guys kind of seen us get out of line, and they would tell us about it.
Yeah.
And not politically correct way to do it today, but they would make sure you got the message.
I'm sure.
Yep.
So you guys are the pioneers of this, and because you have both the experience and now the technology, so you can really lead the young people and tell them, why this does what it does, and what you can do to prevent that. In a lot of cases.
Right.
If they just continuously want to, we get lazy and complacent. Just continuously go up the lane until it gets into that 3.5 second thing until it starts activating. A professional driver doesn't.
Right.
He sees that,
Way ahead of time.
so far ahead of him,
I would
but
say
it's a great tool. You made a great point on that.
I would say that one of the greatest things I've found about it, and it sounds kind of bad, but a lot of times from the naked eye, you can't tell if you're gaining on someone. But with the system, you can tell because it says 1.7, 1.6. So I can base on how fast I'm gaining on someone as to where I can, swing, make the move to where it's safe to swing out to pass them. Whereas like a lot of times you don't know until you get closer and closer and closer that you're actually gaining on them. So that's one improvement. I think that's kind of cool, but you know.
See, here's the thing though, is this system kind of won't let you gain on people too far.
No, it won't.
It'll start kicking your cruise down. To
Well,
where,
that's when you put your foot on the.
Yeah,
you
you
have
gotta
to
catch
override.
back
It's
up to
it's like an override.
Yeah,
Right.
put your foot up, put your foot on the accelerator, and get over
Yeah.
in the other lane when you
Yeah.
can, when it's safe. You really have to be, and that's one thing I wanted to share. You have to be completely over in that lane, in the
Oh,
other
yeah.
lane. If you're partial,
It'll
it's gonna
stick
slow
on.
you. Like you
It's done
talked
that
about,
too, yeah.
this is not what we want to do going up that hill, right?
Yeah.
We'll
Right.
slow down. So if you before you get into the HAP area, or, get all the way over in that lane, and if you do get the HAP, throttle through it, get over in that lane as quick as you can. That's what you can do. There's other things that I wanted to talk about, is in bad weather. You see, especially in the state of Missouri, with their signs out from the state police and stuff, we shouldn't be running our cruise control in rain.
Absolutely,
Right.
I agree.
We shouldn't be running our cruise control in any inclement weather.
Nope.
Now I'm going to throw a new one at you, which you probably don't anyway. I know you professional guys don't. When you're in hilly, curvy areas,
Oh, yeah.
you're going to get some
Oh, yeah.
unattended events.
Oh yeah.
So we would highly recommend don't have cruise control. You got to drive that truck.
Right.
You have control of that truck with your brake, your accelerator. Don't let our system get you through the hills and hollers, because you're going to have some happy points. It's just, you see how the headlights go. That truck is concentrated on what's in your lane, and if your headlights are going over into the other guy's lane, so's the radar.
That's a good point.
I've experienced that myself, going around a curve
Yes,
and it catching it.
And another big thing, and I would say is probably one of the leading causes of rear end crashes, is not from somebody not paying attention and coming up on the stopped vehicles and stuff. The leading cause of rear end crashes is when a person is going to make an exit.
Oh yeah.
And you're coming up behind him. I got it. This guy's going to make an exit. What you didn't know, he was going to turn into Taco Bell. So he hits his brakes before he makes his full turn. Boom. There you are, right on top of him. Or there's a car in front of him that stops. They don't, until they make that full turn and get off the road. We have so many accidents where
Yeah.
people have a right turning signal on, and for whatever reason, stop in that lane before they make their turn. And we're not ready for that. So that's where the system does it great.
So the last question that we have, and this is a concern with all new technology, I think that a lot of drivers have, is this a step closer to automation?
To
Automation?
Automated drive.
autonomous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sure it is. Let's not, it's part of it. I don't know how soon we'll see autonomous drivers, but I will say this. Is that scary? Yeah, it's pretty scary. Let's not think about it. But the pilots in the airlines don't fly the planes. It's all done.
Yeah, they don't have near as much traffic up there though.
Understood.
Yeah, but they're also 15,000 feet
now
above
stop
the
and think.
ground.
But even at that, they won't let that plane fly without somebody in there. They're not going to let the truck go down the highway without somebody.
I
There
don't know if I
will
wanna
never
be in
be
a
a
truck like
replacement for a truck driver. We can have all the technology in the world. Somebody's got to oversee the technology to make sure it's operating correctly. It's on. It's doing its job. And that's you guys are the pioneers. Your feedback is everything.
Means Eugene's got to go back to school though. To
Dude,
work
oh,
on
Oh
stuff.
no, computers break all the time, buddy. All the time.
Yes, they do.
It just means we got to be engineers instead of truck drivers.
Darn right.
Right.
But
I want a pay
we're
raise.
guys, we're going to see more and more of this. As we go through this. Number one, I want to reiterate, is you get the yellow light is your first notice. Yeah, that's in the pack cars. I can't speak for the bubbles that I know for sure. So you get a yellow light, that's your notice. You guys are already on top of it. If it goes further, then you're going to get your happy break, right? And then obviously if it gets within that 16, 18 second, we're going to put on 50% of brakes. So there is 3 stages to it. At any time, we can stop what's going on. What we can't control 100% today, but we've made major improvements, is the unintended events. And they keep getting more narrow and narrow. You talk about 3 times a day, is that acceptable? Probably really irritating.
It
You know
is.
what I'm saying?
Well,
But if you look at the big picture at the end of the day, did it save you from having an incident of any type, you know,
Yeah.
during that week? Is that worth that? I know it is to me.
So the answer probably is yes. It probably is, but I will tell you, if there is an automated vehicle that drives itself, it probably will has this technology. Is it going to happen in my lifetime? I don't think it's gonna. Your lifetime, probably not.
I've already ridden it.
They've
I don't know.
They've already had a semi driving by itself.
Oh, I know they have.
they don't
But
have
is it going to
sensors
happen?
in the-
Is it going to happen industry wide? Probably not in my lifetime. I don't know.
No, I
It
mean
might.
the next step I would say would be the the fully electric trucks.
But if there was a fully autonomous vehicle driving around, it most likely will have this technology. So my answer to that would be just like his. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just not in my lifetime.
yeah. Exactly, that's my thought. It's a step, but I don't think we'll see it.
Yeah.
I think regardless if we see it or not, there will be a driver.
Yeah.
I mean, technology is going to continue advancing regardless of what we do. So, I mean, it's definitely, like he said, going to be part of it. I personally don't want to be in a vehicle that's driving itself yet. I mean, maybe someday. I think technology has a long ways to go.
Yep.
They actually already have Ubers in Las Vegas. I know in Las Vegas. I know probably other places that are actually automated driving. I rode in one because it was if you ride in one, it's free. You don't get charged for the fare, and I was like, okay. But there's a person in the car behind the steering wheel. They just don't touch it, and it drives itself until it comes to a stop. It was kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of awkward, but I survived. So, but it's happening. I mean, there is in bigger areas there is automated driving. Is it a step towards that? Absolutely. But like you said, I don't think we'll be alive when it finally transfers over.
There's a difference between a car driving a couple people around and
And
a
a
truck
semi.
driving
Oh, for sure,
80,000 to 100,000 pounds around.
Yeah.
I can
Sure.
promise you there's
Absolutely.
the gap in years between one and the other is going to be several.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I plan to live pretty old, so. You know.
There you
I
go.
hope I'm not driving when I'm 70. So I'll.
Yeah,
you
no
know.
kidding.
All right, I'm going to get to your comments on Facebook. Terry Goebel wants to know if the brake lights come on when the system is applying the brakes.
Yes,
Okay, there's your answer, Terry.
they come on both incidents, whether it's havoc or whether it's a collision mitigation test.
Okay. And then Chris has a good question. He asked about maintenance on the system. How much does the system cost, and on like, what is the average maintenance cost as well?
Well, I don't know what the system costs. I would have to look at the specs on the trucks. I really don't know that. I would imagine, I mean, it's in the thousands, but I just don't know how many of them. As far as maintenance, the only real maintenance that we've done is, I mean, unfortunately, there has been some frustration in the system, and there's been several times that we've had to replace the radar in the front because the radar has been smashed by people because they're just angry with it.
Oh my gosh.
And other than that, it's just the updates from Meritor or Bendix that have come up with updates to try to get rid of those false events.
I do know it's so far embedded in the system of the truck, like on the Volvo. My ABS light will come on when you just step on the brakes, and then it goes back off. And Volvo checked that out, and they literally had to open a case over it and everything because it was throwing a code they knew nothing about. Which, I mean, new truck, new system, everything's new. So it's definitely deeply embedded in the system of the truck. And I'm not sure, they still haven't figured out why.
Well, of course it's embedded deep in the
So-
system because it's using multiple different systems to make that one system work. So yeah, it's controlling a good portion of your truck just to have that work.
Right.
So the
Yeah,
short answer is
yeah.
you are correct.
Yeah, I just didn't realize, until then, I didn't realize to what extent it was.
Yeah.
Well, I actually was curious. I asked Volvo yesterday if they could take it out, the system. And I said no. The mechanics shook their head like, you're crazy, because it is so fully embedded into the system that you would essentially just have to put everything new in it, so.
All right. Well, that is all we have. Any final comments anyone wants to add?
I mean, I kind of have a final comment as far as RTI, which I know we have options after we've been here. But a system like this, I think really, with the lease to purchase program, I think it should be a choice of the driver, not, forced. As far as, because I mean, if I'm buying my truck. I know a lot of people come in, lease a truck, and they're gone, whatever. But I think it should be an option, not a forced deal to have.
Will it ever be mandatory? Like, so that's what I was saying. I was like, that's one thing I could say.
It's
Is,
all part of MAP 21, correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
Once
So
that goes
this
through, it'll be
ultimately this
mandatory.
is going to be
This
like
will be
this is
mandatory,
going
just
to be
like
like
ABS.
e-logs. It's going to be like e-logs. I mean, it's all part of MAP 21.
What period of time, if you had to speculate, would you say it's going to be a mandatory system on trucks?
We thought it would be a lot quicker than what it is, right? We thought it would already be mandatory. Right now there's probably over 30% of the trucks today out there that have it. It has proven itself. It has proven it has some negative effects also, but the positive has outweighed the negative by far. The big thing is it's like we talked about, the pioneers. You guys are going through the changes of this technology, as Eugene spoke about, whether it be ABS, roll stability, now this stuff here. If your feedback doesn't get back to us, we're never going to get it right.
Right.
It's critical that, go on to the wapco.com. There's an area in there where you can put your feedback in there. I know it sounds like, well, send us a note and we'll follow up. No, this is how it's done. This is reality. Is we can only do so much testing and stuff on areas that we don't, if it doesn't work, we're okay. You guys, if it doesn't work, that is not the answer.
Right.
Right.
So we need to know what it's doing. The one thing I would ask, in my departing words, is when you guys get ready to take off on your shift or on your run, and you clean your windows, you clean your mirrors, and you check everything. Would you wipe off my little radar thing there too?
I do that all the
Because that can cause
Right.
unintended events. The trash, you talk about the rain and stuff, the little leaves and the sticks and stuff, they stick on that cover. So that's what I would ask in the long run. If you would just show a little love to that little radar system, wipe them off, maybe we'll see less unattended events. Okay?
So clean
I put
instead of
Rain-X
kick.
on mine.
That's where we're
That's
at.
good.
But
I put Rain-X on mine because that way then it doesn't get dirty.
Doesn't get the
Everything washes off. And I have noticed that it cuts down the not working in the rain by, quite a bit, but it still does happen. But it makes it to where just everything beads off of it.
it's
So
going to be part of the.
it keeps it cleaner too. So
It's going to be part of the pre-trip.
I mean, ice and snow build up on it. It's,
yeah, that's nothing you can do. about
you
that.
got to,
I mean, it'll tell you if it's got blocked.
yeah.
They'll
There
tell you if
again,
it has what?
ice and snow, you're not supposed to have the cruise control on anyway. So,
Right.
and
Right.
the system basically does. I mean,
System
am I
still works.
understanding?
It
Okay,
does.
it does still work
System
regardless
works
whether the cruise is on.
control's on or off.
Okay.
Yeah. If you get close to the vehicle, even if you're got your foot on the throttle.
Okay.
So it's a good system. Needs a little TLC from you guys, and we'll keep trying to get it better. We've made leaps and bounds. I'll tell this story real briefly. I had an opportunity. I retired a couple of years ago, and I could leave the industry, which I've been in all my life, and or I can adapt this new technology. This was a pretty good place for me to get out. because
Yep.
everything's changing. I chose to go with the technology because I think it's the right thing to do going forward. And I think in the long run, we're all going to be better off. And I like to be part of that.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you all for your time. And thanks for watching.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.